Straight Life by Art and Lori Pepper. This is episode 54 of Straight Life. In episode 53, Art was involved in a burglary. It was very exciting and he made a lot of money. In episode 54, the money is gone. And so is Diane. This is Art's narrative. The money from the burglary went fast. When you're doing nothing but using, money really goes. Diane went. I'll talk about that later. Finally, all I had left was Bijou the Poodle, and I was going out boosting every day to get money for dope. I usually went with a guy named Rudy, who had an old Plymouth. We'd drive out together and steal tools. We'd go to building sites in East LA. When the workers ate their lunches, they'd all sit facing the same way, facing the street or the sun. And they'd leave all their tools hooked up, the drills and sanders. One of us would sneak up over the big piles of dirt where they were digging foundations and unhook the tools, get as many as we could carry, and get out. You'd have to crawl, and it was scary because if these guys ever caught us, they were rough guys, construction workers, and you were taking their tools that they worked to pay for. As soon as you got out, the other guy would drive up and you'd jump in the car and get away. I was just moving around, staying at motels and different people's pads, and I didn't like to leave the dog behind, so I was taking Bijou with me when I went out boosting. And one time we were driving, me and Rudy and Bijou, near Olympic in Indiana, and we spotted an auto paint place, so we stopped. Rudy would go one way and I'd go another. We'd grab what we could get and meet at the car. We both got out. I left Bijou and walked around the corner to the place where they were painting cars. I looked inside and saw a big hydraulic jack. You pump it and the whole car goes up. I snuck into this place and grabbed the thing, and once I grabbed it and started to move it, it was too late to leave it, and what I didn't realize at first was that it had steel wheels, and when I started pulling, it made this awful noise going over the sidewalk. It made a terrible noise, and I pushed it down the street just as fast as I could. I get to the corner. I look for Rudy. He's down the other way. I wave. I want him to come immediately, but it's too late, and I can't leave this thing. I roll it to the car. We'd parked on a residential street right off the main thoroughfare, and I saw some people sitting on a porch a few houses down. They were watching me, but I was getting sick, and anyway, it was too late to do anything but what I had to do. I open the door and I'm trying to get this thing into the back seat of this old Plymouth sedan. It was a real beat car, kind of a rusty red color, and I'm just killing myself. I've got grease on me and the handle hits the roof and rips out what upholstery's left. And there's nothing I can do with Bijou. She's jumping up and down. She wants to play. I don't know how I got it in the car. It must have weighed a couple tons. I get it in and I look around and there's Bijou down by this house with the people on the porch. She's running around the lawn barking. I holler, "Come on, Bijou." And I go after her, but she thinks I'm playing. So she's running like poodles can. Her ears are flying back and she's got this smile on her face. She's running like the wind, barking and leaping up in the air. Her tongue is hanging out and her tail is wagging, and she pounces down on her front paws, stops, looks at me. I get almost up to her and then she runs real fast and oh God. I said, "Come on, Bijou, hurry, please, please." Some other people come out of their houses to watch. I see Rudy up at the corner. He doesn't have anything and he's running, and I think, oh, something's wrong. Here he comes, man, and he says, let's go, let's go. I say, we got to get Bijou, man. So now we're both going after her. Finally, I catch her. I get her in the car, and we pull out with all the neighbors looking and her still barking. I thought, sure, someone would take the license number or something. But what saved us was the fact that this was East LA, and everybody minds their own business. I sold Bijou to Reuben. One day I was really sick, waiting for Rudy to come over. And Reuben said, why don't you let me take Bijou, man? His old lady liked her. I looked at the dog and I knew I couldn't keep her. So I said, I'll let you take her, but as soon as I get settled, I want to buy her back. He said, okay, man, but you're not going to get settled. You're just going to jail. I sold Bijou for $20. Later on, after I got busted and got out on bail, I went over to Reuben's to see her. I looked out in the yard and couldn't believe my eyes. I said, is that you, Bijou? Always before, she'd hold her tail straight up. She'd wag it. She'd prance. I saw this dog slinking around with her tail between her legs. She was fat, and she had grease on her. Her head looked like a lion's head. Reuben had trimmed the hair off her body, but he'd left it on her head because he was afraid he might hurt her eyes or her ears. She looked at me and started to wag her tail, and then she said, oh, God, I look awful. I talked to Reuben and I said, what happened to her? He said, oh, she's fine except for her haircut. I said, well, how'd she get so fat? She used to be so groovy. He said, oh, she likes tortillas and beans, man. We've been feeding her tortillas and beans. I went through a big scene with them, but they finally agreed to sell her back to me. I took her to a grooming parlor. All the other dogs were there, strutting around, and there were beautiful cats sitting in people's laps. I walked in with this fat dog in a rope collar. She didn't even want to go in the door. I had to carry her, and she hid her head so nobody would see her. The nurse took her on the leash, and the dog looked at me and then slunk out of the room, hiding her eyes. And all the animals were looking at her like, who is that? What is she doing here? It took a couple hours or a couple days, I don't remember, and I came back. They called my name. The door opens and here comes Bijou just prancing out. I had bought her a collar and given it to them, a little diamond collar with blue, beautiful against her champagne color. They'd cleaned her and clipped her. She walked out with her tail up. She strutted out. She looked marvelous. She looked down her nose at all the other dogs and at the people. And then, when I petted her, she went and peed on the floor, as if to say, there, take that. I kept her until it was time to go back to jail. Then I gave her to Diane's sister, Marie. She had a nice big home in West LA.